Good morning. My name is Kirsty Dignam. Oh, I need to take a big pause and a big breath. Hang on. My name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here to look at the energies for today's Monday's musings for the remainder of the week. And we are the 3rd of April and we have a full moon in Libra. I think it's Libra. Coming up, regardless of where the moon is, or what sign the moon is in, or the more obvious messages this week, it feels really important to go underneath to the more subtle bodies. And that feels like key, our more subtle bodies. So what do we feel this week? So I felt like I really needed to take a deep breath in and just let go. And that is how I've been sensing the energies for the upcoming full moon, if it is in Libra. Regardless, I've been sensing a balance. Not even a need for balance. I was going to say a need for balance, but I'm looking at an old cobweb on a picture of mine, and that's an old web that we've weaved. Almost having to be a certain way in order to appreciate the balance. Almost having to burn ourselves out in order to allow ourselves to rest. And this feels like an old way of establishing balance now. It's more fine-tuned. We're more fine-tuned. And to acknowledge that, take credit for that. That's what I hear. Take credit for that. And taking that deep breath in and just letting go of old beliefs, old systems, old ways of bringing about justice in our own lives. So when we look at Libra, yes, we do think about communication, we think about balance, we think about the scales, the past and the present and where we are, but we recognise that we are the pendulum, we are the bridge in between that all, but also we are the initiator of our own justice. If something isn't working for us anymore, it is down to us to say that isn't working. Or if something is working, it's down to us to say, I need to do that more. And to really recognise that from that point, everything starts to look a bit 3D actually. And it kind of knocked me off my chair then. Everything becomes more real when we take acknowledgement of the fact that it's our responsibility to bring about the justice that we seek. This week in particular. So I didn't actually think I was going to have anything to say. She says, as I can feel my throat just opening. And there's something in that this week that the moment we start to acknowledge how we feel, this communication is going to be open like floodgates. No, it's not floodgates. That's how we fear it may come across. It's not floodgates. It's open. It's free. It's that deep breath of air. It's our bodies being allowed to speak this week. And that's going to bring a real shift in our subtle energetic bodies. What I really sense is a lot of changes that have occurred for people, but perhaps the blueprint, the hard drive, the aura, the more subtle energies haven't quite caught up. And this week, by speaking our truth, by acknowledging our own integrity with ourselves, that's the key, with ourselves as the firm destruction, I was going to say, firm foundation of that. But there's something in that, recognising our own ability to deconstruct our own essence. And what I'm seeing here, so there's a bit of confusing energy coming in, and that's key this week when it comes to what it is we want, what it is we are trying to build. It's almost like we have had to pull things apart to see how they work, very much like when we are a child, to pull things apart to see how it works, to acknowledge that we already knew this, and to regain that confirmation. And we've done that through lessons. We've done that as a society through the very things that we've healed, shifted, acknowledged. But now it is about putting it all back together. And what I see in my mind's eye is, the a la carte menus where someone has deconstructed a meal. It's not quite the same, right? It's okay to look at the ingredients of something. It's okay to look at the components, the recipe. But it is this week about putting it back together and creating an actual meal. A meal that is worth sharing with others. And I can feel that as we lead into Easter, it is very much about feeding all aspects of ourselves, feeding all aspects of our tribe, knowing that what we give to another, we give to ourselves. What we give to ourselves, we give to another. This week is very much about connections, very much about relationships and how we relate to ourselves and the balance here. I get a lot of people that talk about boundaries and restrictions and putting in place certain things that help them work better. It starts with ourselves. The boundaries, the balance, the flexibility, if you will, starts with ourselves. What is our relationship with ourselves? Are we tired and forcing work? Are we in a relationship that we know deep down inside doesn't quite sustain our needs now on all levels, including our subtle bodies. That's up to us to bring that justice back now and to seek out advice and support as needed. Okay, breathe, pause. The information this week, if we can take the time to actually communicate, is going to come in fast, clear, shift, heal, next. And it's going to be quite a consistent movement here, because it almost feels as if we're trying to shed, to push out, to excrete, if you will, things that are standing in the way of what it is we're trying to achieve, by figuring out what we don't want to achieve this week. However, there is some confusion around that. What is that confusion? And that I really feel in my lower back. And funny enough, my lower back has actually been playing up, and it kept reminding me of the 10 of Wands, the excess work that we're doing. And what I feel is the adrenal cortex here to really, and our adrenal glands, our kidneys, to really look into where we are acting from. Is it still in that fight or flight? And I am going to say still in that fight or flight, because we've learned an awful lot about trauma responses. We've learned an awful lot about how much we've grown and how much things affect us. Have we balanced that out, okay, with the tools that we need to maintain that hemodynamic within ourselves? Have we balanced that out with the tools? It's one thing to know something, it's another to put it into practice, which I can take on board this week, back on my routine bus. Getting knocked down, keep getting back up. That didn't work. Okay, try something else. That did work. And it's very much what I can see here is it's about extracting the mortar, the very things that are going to stick together the foundations of who we are. It's the essence that we're going to find this week. So going back to the beginning of the video, I didn't think that I had anything to say until I started to speak, but what I did do before the recording is to do a test run, a trial run, which feels like key as well. If you're not sure about something, you're not sure about creating something, you're not sure about recording something, sharing something, test the water, do a trial run. An example of this, and I will do it quickly, I've made some candles this week, really measuring out the amount of essential oils in, really scientific, very logical way of making these candles. And they're a trial run actually of what I will be creating in the long run, and I wouldn't have figured that out until I'd actually tried to make them in the first place. So this week doing trial runs without too much attachment to the outcome. Life is about living, and it is about the fun of experiences, not always about the end result, and that can be very difficult. I understand that. I can feel that under my rib cage, my solar plexus, a real tension of willpower, of drive, of longing, of yearning, of power itself for what it is we're trying to manifest. But enjoy the experience. And I know that can be hard, but we gain one step closer towards what we're trying to achieve by literally experiencing it. So we're looking for soulmates and we go on a date and it wasn't our soulmate, but what did we gain for that? What did we recognize from that? Well, we know that that's not what we're looking for. It's all part of it. The outcome isn't everything, and we do know this, but this week it's going to another level on our subtle bodies. It's almost like needing a bit of forgiveness and a bit of compassion for our subtle bodies that have been saying, yeah, I'm not quite sure, so we need to try this, and I'm not quite sure, we need to try this. Recognizing that the trials and errors are actually part of the much bigger picture, and there's something there that's so obvious and I can't quite figure it out, and that feels like key this week. There's something so obvious, so simple, that we may end up beating around the bush, and it feels that's actually an essential part of it. That's actually an essential part of finding a communication that works for us. So gently, softly, catchy monkey, that's what I hear. Gently with it all. And I hear the phrase that my mum used to say, you catch more flies with honey? A bit of compassion this week. So back to the beginning of the video, and I feel tightness in my chest with that. I feel that's almost where the fight or flight comes from, the knowing that we need compassion, the knowing that we are longing to open and receive a more gentle way of creating, and the grief that comes in understanding what we need to let go in order to do that, which does mean letting go of the outcome. It does mean letting go of the knowing and the exact steps to take, the certainty. It does mean letting go of that, and that That's the struggle with the chest this week, and it comes from fear. It comes from a misunderstanding of loss and endings, and grief as well. So having that compassion this week. There's no point trying to shift something, force something, get it to move, heal it, fix it. There is no point. That is going to almost bring a heels in the sand, digging in, not budging reaction from the subtle bodies, because they are subtle. It needs to be gentle. If we want something to shift, we need to actually match, the subtleness of that, the gentility of that this week. Okay, couple of things. Going back to the original video, what I was going to say was I did a trial run, and the trial run it was a few seconds to make sure that everything worked, and I literally said just checking this to see if it works, to make sure that it works. And that's life. We're going to try this to see if it works, okay? And just really doing that. just try. There was nothing ever lost from trying something, and just being open to where that may go. So when I applied for midwifery, I didn't actually want to be a midwife. I wanted to be a paediatric nurse. I didn't get in. I applied too late. I was very young, naive, hadn't had a job, was going straight from college to university, and UCAS understandably were just like, no, go and get yourself some experience. That feels quite poignant, that we recognise that every time something isn't quite as we would like, it's an opportunity for experience. So what did I do? I closed my eyes in this moment of what I could have seen as rejection, and I actually did see as rejection back then. Closed my eyes and just thought, sod it, and put my finger down onto a list and picked something, and it turned out to be midwifery. And it turned out to be one of the best decisions of my life. The same with counselling, and it is this week about acknowledging that those decisions we make that may feel ad hoc, that may feel on a whim, are actually deeper rooted in our soul's wisdom, yearnings, desire and needed growth than we give them credit for. So really looking, we can look back on things that haven't worked and say, well, I wasted my time with that, and I did actually, they were all experiences, especially when it comes to those heart-led desires, those heart-driven moments. If we start to really downplay that, restrict that, berate that, well, you wanted to go for that and it didn't work, that's when we start to really lose that connection with our heart this week. And it's that we're grieving. Wow, I really feel that. I really feel the disconnection from our own heart space and the grief that is coming as a result of that this week. Really taking time to reconnect to the heart, to do things that the heart enjoys doing. And the chances are it would be very, very simple. Something like just a deep breath in, just a hold, just a bit of support there. It takes great courage to go after the things that we want, whether they make sense or not. And that does deserve respect. That does deserve acknowledgement. So that brings me on to something that I watched last night, and it was called 3,000 Years of Longing. And it was about a jinn, and I can't remember the lady that was in it now, but Idris Elba was in it, and he was a genie basically, and this lady had to make her wishes. And I won't go into it all, but at one point there was a real acknowledgement of the narrative that we have behind wishes. Thank you, that's what it is, the narrative that we have behind wishes, and that there being a cost. And this is something that we put in place, guys, whether we call it karma, and I do it, whether we call it karma, whether we think, oh, if I ask for that, then this and and there is to an extent a balance. But we've asked for something, we've achieved something, it didn't quite go as we planned out, so we've blamed the wish, or our heart. Really looking at that this week, really looking at our relationship with manifestation and the perceived consequences as a result. So is there anything else? I think that's probably enough, because the other thing that I felt today, now I know why I felt the Spellcaster's Handbook by Melanie Marquis. Now I know why I was drawn to those cards. And that could be something, we may not know why we've been drawn to something, but it is about trusting that it will all make sense in the end. It will all make sense in the end, okay? And what I'm hearing is because we will make sense of it. It's kind of down to us what we gain from our experiences. Our experiences are individual, they are unique, even though they are part of the collective consciousness. It's that saying, we are a drop in the ocean and an ocean in one drop, and it's about us figuring out our own essence this week. So when I was saying that, I could feel a lot of intrusive energy, interfering energy, static energy that's been hanging around, and it's old beliefs and it's old values, it's people, situations, energy perhaps where we are living, and just keep going, just keep communicating with yourself, with your body. So it's almost like I'm trying to walk through a fog this week, and just keep going, just one step after the other, listening to the body, being guided by the body and your intuition and whatever tries to come through here. There's a difference between higher energy coming through and mental energy coming through, and it's the interference, but it's also the balance this week. So when we think of the scales, when we think of Mat, when we think of justice, the Egyptian goddess, Mat, we think of the scales and the heart being the measurement, the heart and the feather, to keep the heart as light as a feather. Okay, so what I'm really seeing here is higher potential, higher communication, higher wisdom, higher intuition trying to come through, and the mental mind trying to understand it. It's that deconstruction of energy. And there's going to come a time all the way through actually this week where it's going to feel as if it's unbalanced. And it's down to us to keep balance here. It's down to us to bring it to the heart. How does it make my heart feel? Because that, I really sense, is going to connect us back to the heart, and it's needed. It's really needed to trust the heart again, to allow the heart to almost prove itself. And that's going to be in relationships, but also relationships with ourselves, but relationships, to allow the hearts to prove their self to each other now. Excuse me. And with ourselves as well. Okay, how many times have we trashed our own dreams and our own yearnings and longings? How many times have we, even just by doubting, as if that's going to happen, that never happens. Really looking at the communication that we have with our heart this year, I was going to say. Interesting, the energies have shifted, and I was thinking this week, I don't know what's going on with Mercury, but it feels like there's something in the background communication wise that's almost quite sneaky, that's going to come up and rear its head. It's going to come up like a goblin, like a monster this week, and go Rah! And try and frighten us. And it's our shadow. It's our shadow this week. Those little naggy feelings that can just come up out of the blue. We've got the devil card on the bottom of the pack. They can just come up out of the blue. They're our shadow. Okay, so really acknowledging that and standing with our heart. I can see the image of Gandalf, you shall not pass, all that light coming out of him, standing in our heart space as well is going to really help us to trust that power that we have. So it's not about gut instinct this week, and it's not about solar plexus willpower, and it's not about the heart alone. It's about the balance of all three. And this is where I see the triangle, the masculine and the feminine in service, the union here that is trying to happen between what we see and what we create. Okay, now I see temperance, and I see the circle and the triangle here. In regards to that, and it is the fire energy and the earth energy, and it is about transmuting our very place here. It is about transmuting how we manifest in order to do that. Okay, anything else? Working with the earth this week is going to be key, so we can flip that narrative and we can say it is about working with the earth element and the fire element this week. So getting out in nature, looking at the food that we're eating. And yes, we can't always, or some of us may not be able to afford, a la carte, pulled apart meals. So we bless the food, we have gratitude for the food, we acknowledge the food, we take time and presence with the food. We can still have intention with what we choose to consume. That feels like the key, even with ourselves. If there's anything that you take forward this week, have intention with what it is you are wanting to consume from something. What are you putting into your heart from this situation? So if we continue to manifest certain things that we know aren't going to play out the way that we want, and then berate ourselves for it, what are we actually consuming? What are we putting into our heart? What are we speaking to our body when we do these things? Really taking it to another level this week of magic. Okay. So I was saying to my husband today with the candles that I've made, And they're going to be meditation candles, as I mentioned, but I was quite surprised that people don't really utilize those tools anymore. You know, candle magic is incredible, really a really great manifester, because you have the elements there. Okay, so especially if you inscribe into a candle, you have the air to light the candle, you have the fire, you have the earth element of it, and obviously we do get smoke that comes off as well, which can incorporate all of the elements. So candle magic, I was quite surprised that there aren't more things out there. I was quite surprised that there aren't more people utilizing these tools, and it's because magic is about to not make a return, make itself more visible, make herself more visible, and I really feel that, and it's going to happen for us all in unique ways, but there is a magic that longs to be communicated, and watching out this week for signs and synchronicities that may help direct us into that position, that path, that, I want to say priesthood or priestesshood. There's more there. Okay, let's have a little look. Okay, so what I'm feeling is straining on the third eye. Not to strain, not to try and figure it all out at once, not to deconstruct what is going on, but to trust, because that's the Eight of Swords here. Eight of Swords and the Seven. Okay, Eight of Swords, Seven of Wands, and the Ten of Wands here. So it is our need to figure things out, our lack of trust that is almost imprisoning us, leaving us quite stubborn here, like the ball in the background, leaving us feeling as if there's no way out, there's nothing that we can do, that we're going to be consumed by this power, this magic, this almost being like a victim of fate here. It's coming from a defensive attitude. So you can see almost the magic symbolism on the floor here. It's coming from a defensive attitude. It's coming from wounds. But even that feels like an assumption now. It feels almost as if we've used our wounds to imprison ourselves, and it's making it all a bit too much. Yeah, really, we have the Six of Pentacles here and the Seven of Swords, really walking away from these particular flows and narratives and stories, okay, because what they're doing is they're affecting what we give out, and they're ultimately affecting what we receive here, and they are a trick of the mind. Things have changed, we have changed, and it's about being brave enough to let the wounds that are ready to heal without picking at the scabs this week. Okay, or if we choose to pick at the scabs, recognizing, acknowledging the bigger wound underneath it. So, you know, if we get into a relationship and we want to know where it's going, what's the bigger wound under here? It's the insecurity, it's the fear, it's the pain from the past, and the wanting to avoid that. Okay, so really applying that to life. What is the bigger wound here? If you're going to pick at a scab, then yeah, take it off, clear it out, give it a good wash out, see what's underneath it. If not, leave well alone and let the air get to it. Okay, so energies this week and how to best navigate them. High Priestess at the bottom of the pack, and it feels pretty pretty simple when we look at it from that perspective. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Okay, there's many that I want to pick for Saturday, so let's just put them to one side a minute. Saturday, Sunday, overall. So at the bottom of the pack we do have the High Priestess here, and we do have this underworld journey that we've all walked because we want to create something different, you know, and to do that we need to look at the stories that we have been creating in the first place. And I felt at the beginning of this week a potential dark night of the soul type energy, but for me what happened was, instead of fighting it, I went into it, and when it comes I go into it and I just with curiosity think, right, okay, something's being shown here. And for me it was whether or not I had a purpose, something so small, whether or not I had a purpose doing what I was doing, and I just went into it, and actually it was more about, did I still enjoy doing it? Yes, I did. So to continue with that. But this week, when anything comes up to take you into the underworld, to discover your treasures and your beauty, and an inner sight now needed, and a wisdom that has been longing to be collected, flow with it, feel with it, go with it. Flow with it, feel with it, go with it. That's That's the mantra for this week. Flow with it, feel with it, go with it. I'll have to write that down. Okay, because overall we have the Three of Wands, and we do have that opportunity of moving forward here, but it has to come from a bigger perspective, a higher perspective. So you can see that actually this character here is, I love how she's got the triquet, I can never say that word, on her chest, the triquet. The triple goddess, the Celtic symbol, mother, maiden, crone, the power of three here, the symbolism here of it being about a higher perspective. So it works for you, it works for your community, it works for the earth at large, the higher vision here. And it is about sending that out. Okay, so if you're not sure this week on how to move forward, and you get the old ideas come up, what's different about them? How can I see this in a different way? Is there anything else for me to gain from this perspective? Okay, so I've recognized X, Y, and Z. What else am I not seeing here? Let me take it up a notch. Let me really examine this. Let me put it back together. So when we see things from a higher perspective, it's not about bypassing. It's not about ignoring what is going on. It's about, okay, so that happened, that happened, that happened. And then taking it one step up higher to the eagle vision, the Apachin, the mover of mountains, and saying, wow, actually it involved all of these situations, and actually there was so much that needed to occur. So when it comes to manifestation, you know, there's some things that we can manifest really, really quickly, you know, with such ease and grace, and eventually that's all things once we've healed whatever needs to be healed that stands in the way of that. There are other things that take a little bit longer because they're more of a soul manifestation. They're on a long, more sustainable term vision, and they normally involve more than just ourselves, right? From that point of view this week, it is about recognizing as long as you keep moving forward, everything else that needs to do so will do so. So okay, I can see what's going on here. The higher vision here is for me to do such and such. Put the feelers out. Put the feelers out. It's a 3. It's about creativity. Start creating something in regards to what it is you're trying to achieve. A vision board, a candle, plant a seed. You know, take 20 seconds to imagine, but start creating with the elements this week. So on the Monday, we do have justice, which I love. I love how we've got the high priestess on the one side and justice on the other. And it's that balance, right? It's also that Libra moon. On the Monday, we're going to get insights of what needs to come to fruition. And I say fruition here because she holds the pomegranate, the very seed that the high priestess eats of in order to remain 6 months in the underground. She's actually got the fruit from that. I mean, it's torn, as you can see here. It's torn all skin from her hands. Yeah, it's actually physically removed who she was. Okay, things aren't the same anymore, and you can see the Wheel of Fortune right up in her soul star chakra there. There's big shifts potentially for this week, and we're going to get insights into that on the Monday about what it is we're trying to create in the balance that we need to restore here. Now, can you see that little band around her abdomen? It was that I felt I wanted to breathe today, almost like the creativity, the sexuality, the sensuality, the sacral is being restricted this week. Allowing time for that to come undone, to be freed, you know, in the little actions that we take to restore that balance. We won't see our fruit. We won't see how we have blossomed unless we can allow ourselves to grow. So really, really looking at that this week. If something comes up and we've been there, we've done that, we've heard this, okay, what can we make new about the situation? How can we see this differently in order to see a higher perspective here? Because on the Tuesday we have the Emperor, and it is about taking stock with that. It is about deciding I'm not going to keep deconstructing everything. I'm going to see where I am and the structures that I've put in place and the routine that is now needed. Okay, is there anything else there? There's a real simplicity and peace that comes from recognizing that the very ball that he sits on is almost a reflection of himself, that the very foundations that support him are almost identical to who he is. And that almost feels like it's going to bring and then you have the ram in the background, bring the flame of transformation, transmutation, I wanted to say, Interesting. The difference between transformation and transmutation this week feels like key, but that recognition of the support system that we have in place is a reflection of where we're at is going to be the ultimate moment that just transforms everything or destroys everything. One and the same, or are they? So that feels like the difference between transformation and transmutation this week. Recognizing that destruction isn't the same as transformation. It's not. And you know, we are in the Chariot Tower year, and there's a real big difference between a authentic tower moment and a man-made induced tower moment. And it's drama, right? It's okay, I want this change, so I'm going to initiate it, and no matter how much we do that, nothing quite shifts, because that's not a tower moment. The enlightenment comes from recognizing our own divine time, and the enlightenment comes from recognizing the fates of the universe, and not how much of a victim we are, but how connected we are to that. Our reflection in the stars this week. I hear the song Written in the Stars this week, acknowledging that as well, that actually there's a time and a place for everything, and what is for us, what is meant for us will not pass us by this week. And that can be really hard. You know, on the Wednesday I see the 10 of Pentacles, and it's like, okay, this is what I want, yeah, this is what I'm really trying to achieve. I can't quite see that card. The bit that I'm trying to show you is the person sat by the house waiting. Can't quite see that. Okay. And that's where I feel, that's where I feel almost like a stabbing right into my right lung and my right kidney. Okay, and it feels like coming from a tension of the sacral. What I'm trying to show you here is the almost eye-like structure of the basket, but it just there. Okay, and the person waiting behind, that wisdom that is patiently waiting is the vision of the very basket that's going to hold all our fruits. So having the patience this week to wait for what it is we want to see. Okay, so if we're seeing a situation that isn't for us, then it doesn't mean we have to jump on board of it. We can just wait for what we are trying to see. And that's where we're going to come unstuck. Yes, I really feel that, because on the Thursday we have the Ace of Pentacles, and it's kind of like, I don't know what I want to see anymore. I don't know what the 10 of Pentacles is to me. I thought I wanted X, Y, and Z, but actually I'm not too sure. And this is where we take the wisdom of that older feminine energy that is sat by the house, sat by the home, sat in the background waiting for patience and time to really reflect. Okay, to really reflect on what it is we are trying to bring to fruition now. The 10 of Pentacles is also at the end. Okay, so the 10 of Pentacles, it could be the end of some of the dreams and desires that we've wanted. And acknowledging that, and that could be where the grief sensation comes from this week. But on the Thursday, if we can do that, we have the Ace of Pentacles. So we have that ending and new beginning, 2 days within each other. Okay, so the Wednesday we have the endings almost of what it is we were trying to achieve by sharing them, gifting them out, having patience, reflecting on them. And on the Thursday we have that seed, that new beginning, that actually this is what the 10 of Pentacles was trying to show me. All these experiences, all these life events, this is what they were trying to show me. This is what I want to take forward. This is the essence of it all. So again, we can want a relationship, we can want more solid finances. What is right underneath all of this? Is it ease and grace? Is it achievement? Is it self-worth? What is underneath it all? What's the one essence that runs through it all? So for me, midwifery, counselling, healing, regardless, is empowerment. I have this craving, this yearning, this longing for people to feel as if they did that. for people to recognise their own worth and their own beauty and their own value. Why? Because it's been a journey I'm walking as well, but also, I don't know, for me it just changes the game. So really recognising what is your underlying core principle this week and how aligned are you to that. And that's going to be a bit of a shocker, I want to say culture shock, that's going to be yeah, it might not fit in with how you perceived yourself. It might not fit in with who you believed you were, or other people, or the stories that you have been led to live. Because on the Friday we have the Wheel of Fortune. And that's where I hear that slowly catchy monkey at the top. Okay, and obviously we have the serpent shedding the skin here, and we also have Set or Anubis here. So we have that death and rebirth on the Friday. Isn't that Easter Friday? I can't quite remember, do forgive me. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So we have the new beginning on the Libra full moon, and then I think it's on Easter Friday we have the Wheel of Fortune. We have big changes here in regards to that. Okay, so it doesn't feel like I want to say a lot about those changes, because they're going to be different and unique for everybody, and it feels quite important that the less we know the better. Friday, that could actually be the big change, that we stop interfering, that we stop trying to figure things out, and that we allow that change to happen through us. So what I see now is a water mill, and the collective consciousness, the emotions, the psyche just flowing through our subtle bodies and allowing things to shift and change within us. It doesn't have to be complicated, really doesn't have to be complicated, but you can see here that the monkey mind needs to be silenced on the Friday in order for these changes to occur, for these shifts to occur. So with the serpent we have Amaru, mother of waters, and the serpent sheds her skin in one beautiful movement with ease and grace. How do we do that? By letting go, embracing the endings, but also closing off our mind from trying to figure everything out, and just allowing the movement to happen in the Chariot year, right? So on the Saturday we have 3 cards. We have a lot going on the Saturday, and it feels as if we've been given great structure, even though it may be a bit kerfuffled. It may be a bit kerfuffled by the weekend, but actually come the Saturday we can look back and go, right, okay, so now that makes sense, and now that makes sense. And trying to figure it out before then is actually going to cause quite a dogmatic approach to our own heart and our own strength and courage here. So if we're trying to make sense of the heart is going to feel berated, restricted, held back, unseen, unheard. Okay, you cannot logically explain the heart unless you're going to do anatomy. And even then, on another level. Okay, so the heart wants what the heart wants. That's what I hear. And trying to explain that this week is actually coming from a real dogmatic approach, and almost inherited, ancestral. So when it comes to magic, when it comes to creativity, femininity, desires, love, even it having to be a certain way based on what we've always known this week. And it's very much about having the courage to expand our truth, to expand who we are, to expand our ability to witness ourselves and each other, to have the courage to see the divinity within everything, even the bits that feel like we may have fucked up, to see the beauty in that. Because if we see things only in black and white, now I know I'm wearing grey today, if we see things only in black and white, then that's a very judgmental approach. That's a good or bad type energy. It's very dogmatic. And we do face that Saturday. So we have the Hierophant, we have the Ace of Cups, and we have the Strength card on the Saturday. And I love how the way that I've held them up now, it's almost like finding the light of the heart in order to obtain the wisdom that we seek. on the Saturday, or all week, all year, all life. Because then on the Sunday we have the Ace. No, not the Ace of Wands, the 8 of Wands. So it's going to feel like a new idea on the Saturday. It's going to feel like a new energy, and it's the very newness. It's on the Sunday, sorry. On the Sunday, it's that rebirth energy. It must be Easter. Yeah, on the Sunday, it's that rebirth energy, because it's the ability to see something new, our heart included, our desires included, that is going to make this a very fast transformation all week. So are we going to keep descending down to the underworld when it's unnecessary in order to bring balance, or are we going to find that balance within us? Are we going to engulf our passions to the point where they destroy everything around us, or are we going to have peace with what it is we've achieved so far and gain the essence underneath it all? So let's break it down. Let's break it down into smaller chunks, because it is a week and a half, actually. It might be a week and a half reading, who knows, but jaw ache there. My wisdom tooth started to hurt then. It is a real humdinger energy. It feels like a turning point, actually, for us all. And of course it's Easter, so yes, why wouldn't it be? It is that rebirth type energy, but no, this is bigger than this. Okay. Okay, so we do have the 4-4 portal. There is more to be seen here. It's a change of seasons, individually and collectively. And I'm not going to try and figure it out, because otherwise that would just go against everything that I've just read. So I'm going to let the cards speak what they need to speak. And that feels like key this week. When we're trying to figure things out, we try and figure it out from a human perspective. Let's take it up to a higher level and let the higher vision come through this week. So what do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 major arcanas this week. We do have harmony, and that harmony comes from fate and the universal forces around us. Whether we see it, 7, we've got the Magician underneath, whether we see it that way or not, as above so below. My third eye is really spinning now, so recognizing we may see that's what I want to say. We may see this week, and that may come as a bit of an endurance. We may see things for what they actually are, ourselves included, and that may come as a harmonizer, which then means we move on to the next stage of our journey, which can be a bit more endurance, or it may come as a endurance here because of there being 7, but actually it's here to harmonize the situation. So how true will we see this week? That's the key. What are we actually seeing this week to really open our eye, our eye in the situation? Because we have the Magician. I'm so tempted to look underneath it all, and it's that we're going to have this temptation to see what's underneath it all. And actually, but every time we do that, every time we try and figure things out, we stop seeing things for what they are. We start seeing whether or not they're what we want them to be, and from that perspective, we can either mold them into what we want them to be, or push them aside before they've had a chance to show us what they are. Every situation this week. Okay, so we have the Magician, High Priestess, Justice, Emperor, Wheel of Fortune, Hierophant, and Strength here. It feels like an army, guys, and I almost see like 7 archangels, and it feels like an army behind us, supporting us, pushing us to an extent sometimes this week to actually see and show up what is going on, to take the wisdom that we have gathered, and to bring that balance, to stay firm and strong in the changes that we are trying to bring forth without letting the mind overrun and control it, and to have the strength and courage to just open our heart to the magic that we are and that we bring, that is needed to the world. Okay. And it can be that simple. It can really, really, really be that simple this week. So let's look at it on a more human, what can we do about it, if anything, perspective from the minor arcanas. And we have 1 wand card, 2 wand cards, 2 pentacle cards, and a water card. So we have the 3 of wands and the 8 of wands. Again, if we can see things from a different perspective, if we can seek out the higher vision behind things, there's a great opportunity to move forward. And it's an opportunity to move forward quite quickly, actually, because this bird has almost returned with everything that we were seeking, with a star on its back, guided, protected, the superpower of the higher vision that is guiding us forward, trusting that this week, trusting that. And if you can't make sense of it, then don't make sense of it. But if you really, really want to look into things and pull things apart, remember, it is always about figuring out how things work, how you work. So if you're going to deconstruct something, it is to transform you, not destroy you. And I really feel that if you're going to pull yourself apart, make sure it's so that you can heal yourself, not hurt yourself this week, and anything that you're creating as well. Gosh, really feel that. Compassion, guys, this week. Compassion. Okay, we then have 2 Pentacle cards, and it's the Ten of Pentacles and the Ace of Pentacles. Yes, recognizing that manifestation itself is a spiral. It's not a linear journey, just like life itself. It's time, and time is not linear. So this week there are going to be moments where we go, oh, actually that's really relevant to what I'm trying to achieve, and that's a new seed or a new way of doing it this week. And it may feel like, gosh, that means I'm even further away from achieving it. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. You wanted 10 Pentacles, yes, not 1. So each one of these little things here, if they sing to the heart, they're part of the bigger picture, and it's almost like dominoes go dish 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 dish, falling into place, every little bit falling into place, and only then can you see how glorious your heart was. It didn't want just a soulmate relationship or just a good job. It wanted a deep connection to who you are. It wanted a deep relationship with life itself. Okay, it wanted to experience everything. That's what your heart wants, and it's got the strength and the power to be able to do it. And it's about us trusting that this week, because we have 1 Cup card, overflowing emotional week. Okay, and it might be the smallest things that bring us joy, and it might be the smallest things that bring us to our knees this week, because the heart is almost reprogramming, relearning, reconfiguring, reloving itself. Okay, so really taking time for that this week is going to be key. And I see 2 beautiful flowers blooming. I see the different stages of the moon. Yes, of course, I see the fish. I see the Christ consciousness here, which is very, very evident, and will be even more evident by the weekend. That's when it really comes into its own. Okay, that's when we really appreciate the sacrifices for what they are, for the journeys that we have carried, for the enlightenment that we have received, for the love that we have become as a result. Now, there are no sword cards. I don't know how my mind feels about that. There are no sword cards. No mental energy this week at all, but I really sense that almost trickster energy of Mercury in the background, and what I see is the tides going back, and it being the tide going back that is the thought process here. Okay, so we have the Empress and the 8 of Swords and the 7 of Swords, but that doesn't feel relevant. The 7 of Swords doesn't feel relevant anymore, and it does feel as if it's about recognizing that our mind isn't playing tricks on us deliberately. What it's trying to do is get us to take a step back. You know, when we're overthinking things, it's not to stand in the way. And I know a lot of the times we speak about the trauma response, and we speak about the mind playing tricks on us, and I've done it now, the monkey mind or whatever, but going deeper with that, the mind, the air is the space of the unknown. So when we're in that place, taking a step back like the tides, so that we can see that bigger perspective here, because we do have the 8 of Swords. Okay, and then right next to it we do have the Empress. It is really looking at our, there's another word there, a roundabout way of looking at our relationship with manifestation, a roundabout way of looking at our relationship with creation, with the earth, our mind, and its ability to perceive all of this is really going to be under the spotlight this week, but it isn't going to be obvious. It's not going to be in our emotions. It's not going to be in our obvious insights. You know, we're almost being given a new way to see the mind, to connect to the mind, to rebalance, yes, the higher perspective and the human perspective, to rebalance the mind, reunite the mind with the soul mind here. But it's going to come from the physical body. My Alexa's just pinged, so I think I have a delivery. Every midwife gets excited about delivery. It's going to come from love, our physical ability to bring love to ourselves and to each other. That's how we're going to understand the mind greater this week. So is there anything else here? 10 of Cups. 10 of Cups. Okay, it really doesn't feel like there needs to be any more, other than we must keep remembering what's underneath it all. Why are we doing this? To live life to have the experiences, to celebrate the joy of being all these different colours, of being human, yes, of existence itself. It's a great opportunity, all of them, and it's up to us to see it that way. Okay, so now I am thinking, is there anything else? And I'm thinking that because, you know, it's very easy to see the beauty in life, or very easy to claim that we can see the beauty in life, and it isn't that easy. So I'm asking for another message, and the card underneath is the devil. Why have we made it so hard to find the joy in life, and the joy in ourselves, and the joy in existence and magic? Why have we made it so hard to see our own light this week? Take care. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.